Our goal for the Lifeways Gallery is to exhibit the traditional lifeways of the Potawatomi and Neshnabek people, to show the balance and how in tune they were with the world around them, and ways of the seasons, the activities that went within those seasons.
We were a seasonally nomadic tribe. We moved depending on what season. We followed the herds in the winter. The seasons really dictated our life year in, year out. So we wanted to really incorporate the 4 seasons because it shaped what activities we did, who we engaged with, where we were living, what tools we were using, what foods we were eating. So really thinking about the seasons and how they impacted our ancestors led us to the decision to carve the exhibit into 4 distinct sections and really highlight each one of those seasons.
We want to choose green for the gallery just because it's a simple, natural color. Green also embodies, the earth and nature. And in doing that and knowing that we were going to have a lot of visuals that were in tune with that and through the different seasons and through the different stages, we just wanted to have sort of a clean and symbolic color. For the mural work, we wanted to select particular imagery that was pertinent to locations that Potawatomi people would have lived in. So each of the seasons were captured from either Wisconsin, Illinois, or Michigan. A goal of ours that we had in the Lifeways Gallery was to make it easily understandable or discernible for people who may not be aware of traditional lifeways, who have heard stories about it or even experienced some of the practices that still go on today. The easiest of which for us was to create large vignettes or scenes that people could then sort of place themselves in those environments and the activities that took place in them. One of our key features is our birch bark canoe.
We had a real challenge with building the scene around the canoe. We knew we needed to create the appearance that the canoe was floating, and we also knew that we had a limited budget and that we had to create this in a way that would allow the visitor to feel like they could really see the underwater environment of the Great Lakes River, but also at the same time be able to work within our budget with the materials that we had and with the crew that we had. So we ended up using oversized styrofoam blocks that we had had in a storage warehouse for several years, and we used tools to go in and carve out the different shapes of the rocks that would allow us to insert dowel rods in that are holding up the canoe, and also to adhere the paint to and to shape it to the shape of the rocks. So it was a bit of a construction dilemma that we had to work through, but I think it came through really well in the end. We really wanted to have a multi-sensory experience in the section because our visitors learn in different ways. So we included the smell of a swamp scene or what it smells like near a river. We also included sounds of a crackling fire. We incorporated bird noises. There are interactives where people can come in and touch the screens and look through different images of the things that you would see in this environment. The wigwam was the one piece that we knew we had to keep. The wigwam was built on site and we could not take it in and out of the museum, so we used the wigwam as a centerpiece. We knew we had to create one gallery that was big enough to incorporate the wigwam. Just in square footage, but it also had to be sort of a showstopper because the wigwam is a fantastic piece. It is built traditionally, no nails or glue or anything like that, so we wanted it to be a highlight of the exhibit, and we really had to think about how to make that happen.
It took a lot of individuals to keep the wigwam grounded enough and secure enough for us to lift it up high enough that it could be displayed like that. But we wanted it to be displayed elevated so that it was prominent. Once you came into the gallery, you saw it and you were drawn to it.
We really had to think about our ancestors and the fact that they had to live in balance with the environment around them. They had to be able to harvest enough grains and foods and pelts from animals without overtaxing the environment so that there wasn't something left for the next year. So really being able to live in tune with your environment was something that I think today a lot of people associate with Native Americans, but it was a real part of the survival of our communities, is to make the most of the environment, but at the same time respect the fact that the creator made certain things and you had to engage with them in a respectful way and not take advantage of that.
So the first piece I did was the bison coat. I was thinking of the bison, how massive he is. I wanted to use that piece for the male, and I used the shoulders of the bison for the shoulders of the man, and actually put him on my shoulders myself just to kind of feel the animal and let it talk to me to see what it needed to be. You know, did it need to be further back? Did it need to be further forward? The next piece I did was the pelt. That was the beaver turban, and the turban was used, wore on the heads to keep the warmth in for the winter. We did come from the Great Lake area, and even today you see how much snow was up in the Great Lakes area. In creating the boots, I used fox skins. That was my first inspiration, and so I needed to put some kind of a toe on it, so I ended up using the toe part of the bison's skin to create the boot. I would call it our pre-European Ugg boots today.
We found it important to display all aspects of traditional life, and star knowledge is a large component of that. A lot of people don't delve too much into understanding the stars or traditional astronomy, but the stars played a key role in traditional ways of life, primarily serving as guides, not just in travel, but in helping people recount stories, oral stories and oral histories, telling about times before their ancestors and different spirits.
The Constellations Interactive, I had talked to Blake about it, about getting, he wanted to show all 4 seasons constellations as they would show in the sky. And as far as the design went, he just wanted, he wanted some stars and he wanted the constellations, and the rest of it was up to me, which was great because that's kind of like, that's my jam. Like, I like to be creative, so I got to build this user interface for it that he really liked. Later on, we added the option to select which season you wanted to see, as opposed to just whatever season it is, that's what you'll see. But it was a lot of fun. I really liked that one.
We wanted to include games in the gallery to show that life was fun. It's just as it is today. People played games, they had leisure. There were sports, there were games of chance, and there were games of skill. And we wanted to display some of the more prominent ones, some of the more culturally tied ones in the gallery.
My role for the games in Section 3 was to create all of the art. So I researched different aspects of the games. Blake was a big help for this. He pointed me in the right direction on certain videos to watch and certain sites to look up on how the games were played, and we had a certain time period that we were going for, so we had to research certain clothing aspects and such. But really my whole process was just sitting down with a Wacom tablet and sketching out the characters for the games.
The games were the most difficult because I had to learn a new programming language for them, in which, I have to do at work anyway, but for something like this, something I'd never done, I've never built a game before, having to learn this new language in 3 or 4 weeks was tough. But then having Sean do all the graphics and everything for it, doing the other half of it, the other major half of it, that made it a lot easier. But having to learn that language and pump something out so quickly was definitely very difficult. For the web stuff, initially I wasn't interested in the design at all. When I started learning, and I'm completely self-taught, I didn't go to school for it or anything, I was more interested in the more methodical coding side of it. And then as I got older, I got burnt out on it. And I was like, well, I can still do this design stuff. And that's when I kind of really delved into Photoshop and Illustrator and different things like that.
Blake and Kelly had decided that as you progress from the second section of Mama Gosnon's gifts into the third section of the museum, that the detail level would go up a little. So we're moving from silhouettes to sketches. My favorite art style is the unfinished product. So a lot of times when I'm reviewing artists, I'll look at the sketch and then I'll see the finished project, and really the sketch is more exciting for me. You get to see the thought process and the intent of the artist, and it's just more personal, I guess you could say. And so this was an opportunity for me to try that in this loose, sketchy style. I did some pen and paper, but largely this was digital sketches. One of the more interesting aspects that I learned was the community aspect of the gaming. So our modern experience with games can a lot of times be a solitary experience where it's just you and a television and you're playing a game. These games are specifically geared towards a community experience, and Blake expressed that often.
Typically in my line of business, like building software and websites, like I don't get to see the end result, what the user gets to experience, knowing that people are actually enjoying them. Because typically, like if I build a website, I'm not gonna know if somebody likes it until they, send me hate mail or something. But overall, like the response has been pretty positive, and I mean, that feels pretty good.
The quill baskets that we have displayed next to our medicinal interactive were selected primarily for the iconography or the imagery that's seen on the basket itself. Each one of those is meant to detail a specific flower that would have been seen in the environment. And those flowers then translate to our medicinal interactive. But we wanted people to understand that the gifts that nature provided in ways of inspiration for artwork, but also in ways of medicine, and how there was that balance, but also that connection in there, that you could utilize both and be grateful for those gifts that are given.
When we were thinking about how to display the basketry, we decided to put it in two distinct sections. The more utilitarian pieces we actually put into the wigwam village scene to show people how they would have been used by individuals in their daily lives. In a second section, we incorporated some of our more decorative basketry. We decided to display them vertically as showpieces. So they are each individually behind a piece of plexiglass that allows the visitor to get really close and look at the detail. Today, our basketry is highly decorative and highly embellished, and we have things from still the traditional black ash woven basketry with dyed pieces to create patterns, to quill basketry that use dyed porcupine quills that are very elaborate and very beautiful. In this gallery, we were looking at the lived environment of our ancestors before European arrival. And one of the things that was very important to our ancestors that's still important to us today are the gifts the Creator gave us in the form of plants. Plants are used as medicines, and the 4 sacred medicines that we talk about are on display, and we decided to put them on display in a way that showcases the fact that they are very distinct from one another, that they still have uses today, and that the gifts that you can look around you in nature and see things that the Creator gave us, that if we just understand them and know how to use them, they can make our lives better, they can heal us, and they can bring us closer to the Creator. One of the things that we have to remember about the gifts the Creator gave us and continues to give us is that they are of no use to us if we don't use them and respect them. The medicines are a great example of this. The Creator gave us tobacco so that we would put that tobacco down and offer our thanks and our prayers to Him. He gave us sage so that we could prepare ourselves to enter ceremony, or prepare ourselves to be in a place where we need those bad things of the day washed off of us. Each one of these medicines has a role in our community, and it only has that role if we understand that, respect it, and continue to use it and connect to the Creator in that way.